Hillary Clinton's appearance on what was the Rachel Maddow show. Let me first play a clip of it.
I am very worried, concerned. I spent a lot of time thinking about exactly what Ann Applebaum and you and others are worried about and trying to point out, because I do think that we are facing a crisis of democracy, a crisis of legitimacy, a crisis that really goes to the heart of what the future of our country and many others around the world will be. So I spend my time trying to figure out what we can do about it, and I am not ever going to give up because there's just too much at stake. But first and foremost, we have to make sure more people, besides people like you, me, Ann Applebaum, and others who share our concerns, see what we see. Because I think that the role of disinformation, the way that propaganda has been really weaponized, and the increasing ability to manipulate people through algorithms and other forms of artificial intelligence will only make this harder to combat. So I don't want to be pessimistic about it, because I think this is a worthy and necessary battle. I saw you talking to my two friends, Karen Dunn and Robbie Kaplan. You know, when they took on that case against the neo-Nazis and the white supremacists coming out of Charlottesville, you know, a lot of people were sort of scratching their heads. And I remember talking to both of them, particularly Karen, whom I've known, and she's worked for me, and I admire her greatly, about why they were doing it. And, you know, it was very simple. Somebody had to do it. We have got to end impunity. We have to hold people accountable for their actions, particularly when those actions threaten our way of life, our rule of law.
So I'm going to bring that clip back up because we're going to dissect that. But I mean, you know, take a shot of that Epicap and try your best not to vomit through this session of Hillary Clinton, because it's truly quite disgusting, in my opinion, that Hillary Clinton in particular is saying these things, considering in 2016, when if she's talking about a crisis of democracy, a crisis of legitimacy, she had a hand in a delegitimate primary in 2016 when she and the DNC teamed up to steal the primary or the nomination from Bernie Sanders. So to me, it's very, very ironic, eye-opening that she in particular is saying this. So I do want to get everybody's first reaction before we kind of dissect each part of it. I'll go to Comrade K first for your just initial reaction, not necessarily on the video, because you may have seen this video or heard about this interview before, but just on the interview, if you know the interview, but if you don't, then on the video. What's your initial, you know, reaction to what Hillary Clinton is saying?
Bro, I wish I had some Pepto-Bismol with me, because that whole shit was just vomit-inducing. Essentially, my God, I could go to the Cheesecake Factory right now and order the richest chocolate cake on their menu, and it would be less rich than every word coming out of her mouth. That was the biggest load of shit I've ever heard. Hats off to her for being officially a bigger hypocrite than she was last time she fucking spoke. She has no right to speak about this kind of shit. Yeah, like you said, she fucked with the primaries and pretty much drop-kicked Bernie Sanders using the media that she's criticizing here, the algorithms and shit like that, of the establishment that promote echo chambers, political echo chambers online for the sake of increased traffic so that advertisers can have more people to fucking cater to and shit like that. That very same system helped her basically fuck over anyone who was running against her. And now she wants to complain about it when she's not the one in power. The United States, here's the thing, I don't agree with her. I don't think you guys are facing a crisis of democracy, because you guys were never a democracy to begin with. You were a republic. y'all are closer to the Roman Empire than you were to actual ancient Greek democracy. It's so fucking rich that she can just keep up this facade of the U.S. Supposedly being the beacon of hope for democracy all over the world, and how we have a responsibility as Americans to uphold our democracy. Not only do you guys shit on your own democracy, you don't let anyone else fucking have fucking democratic elections whatsoever. America hasn't promoted democracy at all, whether you look at South America or the Middle East. Y'all straight up depose people you don't like as long as they're not a world power or something like that, and you antagonize those who step away from y'all. And it's absolutely disgusting that she would say this. I hate that she keeps doing this, that she keeps interjecting herself into every single issue. This crisis was brought on by the establishment's unwillingness or lack of willingness to tackle fascism in America. The fact that Donald Trump even won in the first place should show liberals and show people like Hillary Clinton that they are wrong, that their moderate, centrist, fucking compromising fucking language is the main thing that led to this all being possible in the first place. By shooting down policies that America really needed, that were the bare minimum, that came out of the mouth of Bernie Sanders, saying, oh, that's too extreme, we need compromise. Compromise with the fascists, with the fucking corporate Americans. Okay, yeah, all right. No problem, Hillary, that's great. I could go on and on about how much of a fucking hypocrite Hillary Clinton is here. I just want her to go away at this point.
You and me both, and probably all of us would like for this person to just go away. It's amazing to me that she is irrelevant, yet they roll out the red carpet anytime she wants to come in and propagandize the nation. Let's bring in Jason K. Same sort of question. Any part of that you want to comment on? What are your initial thoughts on Hillary Clinton? What she's saying in this clip?
She is helping to manage the narrative and to keep it within the confines of the establishment set bounds of what they want people to know. And we have lived through some historic evil shit, and she's right at the fucking heart of it. They cheated an election. They blamed it all on Russia. They have scapegoated Russia for dozens of things over the last few years. They have cemented their power, and they've kept the people's voice quiet, and they've got mainstream propaganda preaching this phony shit. And history, if there is justice, is going to show how statements like this are just this massive global gaslighting, where she's actually advocating for more censorship and more authoritarianism. And it all goes together. And I think that the interview was about Joe Biden's low approval rating, which is, as we know, it's because Democrats haven't done shit that they promised to do in like 40 years, and starting with Bill Clinton, they've been totally bought by corporate interests, and their method of operation is to go up there and give nice speeches, like Barack Obama was the king of it, go up there and give nice speeches, and then turn around and do the exact fucking opposite, all while pretending that if democracy was untouched, we would all be supporting her. And the third-wave Democrats. So it's so evil, and I just, I can't wait for the actual revolution where we get rid of these fuckers. And I'm so glad that the lawyer that worked for her is under indictment by the Biden administration, and the main source that was used for the Steele dossier is under indictment, and it all tracks back to her. I'm sure that I'm looking for unicorns and pie in the sky idealism, but maybe, just maybe, there's a chance that she may actually be held accountable for something. I doubt it. She'll probably fake her own death and end up on a private island with Jeffrey Epstein, who probably also faked his own death, leaving Ghislaine Maxwell to suffer for his crimes. Not that she was innocent, but my God, I just can't wait till the end of the book, and I know it's going to get worse before it gets better.
Yeah.
But it's so painful to watch that shit and to know that tens of millions of people believe this shit and think that I'm the crazy one.
Right, and that's what's so frustrating with propaganda in general, but in particular, the propaganda around Hillary Clinton and how she is somehow looked at as some sort of like, I don't know, legend of the Democratic Party. I guess to them, she is a legend to the Democratic Party. But let's bring in Luden here for your initial reaction to, the Hillary Clinton clip that we played. What's your reaction, Luden?
My reaction is that, for starters, like, she's the biggest hypocrite in the world, because when it comes to election rigging and trying to, like, undermine democracy, she's, like, one of the main culprits. Like, if I'm not mistaken, she had Donna Brazile, who was supposed to be the DNC chair at the time.
Yes.
Feeding her questions to debates. Like,
yes.
She had this other lady, the one from Florida,
Debbie Wasserman Schultz. Yeah.
And it was just a whole...
So many shitbags.
Oh my gosh. And then speaking of like manipulating media, she was the one who elevated Trump in the first place. And she lost.
Right. Because she thought, I have this in the bag, let me go ahead and elevate this terrible person, because obviously, even though I'm terrible, this is her talking, he's more terribler than me, if that's a word, and I know it's not. So that was her calculation. That was mainstream media's calculation, including CNN, including MSNBC. So, and now they're trying to blame, during his presidency, they didn't want to blame his presidency on the racist Trump voters, when they're the ones who propped him up. They're the ones who had him on there 24/7, thinking that if they put this clown in the nomination, Hillary Clinton would be able to walk into the White House, which she did not, because she's terrible, more terribler, I guess, in that instance, than Donald Trump. But let's bring in Austin. Austin, what are your thoughts about the same thing? Hillary Clinton, her comments, on the Rachel Maddow show, and like somebody pointed out, I think it was Jason Kay pointed out, she actually went on there to talk about Biden's low poll numbers and how the American people really just don't understand how much good he's doing. That's what really she went on there for. I see several of you laughing. But yes, Austin, what are your thoughts?
Well, first off, clearly they think we're all dumb motherfuckers, right? So they can eat shit. Fucking Nazis. So, yeah, I mean, so much I got written down here. But first thing you should know about Hillary Clinton, I think, is that apparently growing up, she was a teacher's pet. So, I don't know about you, but maybe, like, fuck teacher's pets, I think teacher's pet, that's a weird-ass fucking phrase, too. To have a dog, I don't know. It's just kind of BDSM sub shit going on. Jump off something you said, though, confronting your folks, your kin and whatnot around, saying that shit, you're inoculating them against the lies out there. So it's important every day. I don't talk to enough people around here. Of course, I need to get my ass out the house, right? I encourage everybody to get out of the house. It's good for your human body and brain. Her going through that, did she say Karen a lot? Because it seemed like, I think if I had a friend named Karen now, I would just call her R or something. But I wouldn't call her Karen no more.
Yeah, but it's a slur. It's a slur.
Yeah, it's like, but she's like dog whistling, like, if you're a Karen, I'm cool with you, sister. Hear me say Karen a lot? Karen? Come on, Karen. There you go. Back to the teacher's pet shit, right?
Yeah.
Shit. So.
Wasn't she a Goldwater girl?
Yes, she was a Goldwater girl. She was a Goldwater girl. It speaks to this here, this comment, Austin. Hillary Clinton was a Republican for half her life. They colleged up to 30.
Yeah, I mean, come on. She grew up in Arkansas. You know, I grew up around all that fucking conservative bullshit too, and became more enlightened. Oh, Democrats are, I guess they're okay. Their truth is, there's what 2,200 billionaires in the world, and that's who fucking is their paymasters, right? That's who they answer to, one way or another, going to all their fancy fucking parties and shit. Hope somebody sneaks in one day and shits in the punch bowl.
that would not be a good thing at the lobbyist parties, or actually I guess it would be a good thing, you know, like when Joe Biden opened up his presidency at the Comcast president's venue they had, and it would have been nice to have somebody shit in their punch bowl there, I guess you could say. I had a glitch in my
I
ear.
was gonna say, if you can't shit in that punch bowl, why don't you just drop a whole lot of acid in it? That'll help them out.
Oh God! And make them watch Akira.
That was good. All right, go ahead, Z.
Yeah, my power went out for a second for some reason. I had to go check some stuff out, and the internet went out, and I was just like, what the hell? But I was as far as that video, she's just using the Russians as usual as a scapegoat. Like I don't know, we see that a lot now. But the liberals are using Russians as a scapegoat because I guess the Russians they've replaced communists with Russian, and with their own xenophobia, and they're also communism as well. But they're being with their xenophobia as well. And actually, I read this article called "Politics: The Inclusion of the Atrociousness," and what it was pretty much pointing out is that people like Hillary Clinton and Obama, they use their identity for inclusion, but it's like, and what it does is it kind of her faux feminism and his faux black power are used as a shield for imperialism. So, and when they're able to, they're the ones making the rules, and they're the only ones invited into the inner circle, but it's actually doing harm to the people they're representing in the first place. So it really can't be counted as a benefit because it's still serving it with the rulers of the upper class. And like what Ludin was saying about as far as like undermining democracy, I mean, when she was Secretary of State, she bombed Libya, one of the most free countries, not one of the most free countries in Africa, but as far as they were getting as far as socialism and being able to nationalize and everything, they were on that path, and they bombed the hell out of Libya, and it's just a fucking barren wasteland now. Undermine democracy, like in Brazil, she's undermining democracy here. I mean, she's the one who. The Russiagate scandal, exactly. The Steele report. Her team paid for the Steele report for the PP tape. So I mean,
it's very rich. It's very rich for her to say this.
Sucks.
Yeah, and I think let me put that back up there. But that's very poignant. That's why I was trying to think of a professional word, and I was just like, no, this kind of fits her. She sucks so bad. She's very terrible. So what I want to do, I'm going to play the video again, but I'm going to stop it at points that I want to make points, because I think there's 3 spots to me, because I love to break down propaganda for our audience, because I think I love doing it because people need to know when propaganda is being told to them, and it's just a couple of words. So let me put it back up on here, and I'm going to play this again with a couple of stops here. So let's go.
Well, Rachel, I am very worried, concerned. I spent a lot of time thinking about exactly what Anne Applebaum and you and others are worried.
Anne Applebaum is terrible, and Rachel Maddow has been in court where the judge says nobody really believes what you're saying is fact. This is entertainment. So that's who Hillary Clinton is pointing to as some sort of look at these people are doing it. One terrible DNC operative, and then Rachel Maddow, a propagandist. Somebody wanted to chime in? Go ahead. I thought I heard somebody say something.
I'll chime in. I mean, she's already just coming in just with all the bullshit, no facts, just vibes.
Exactly. And then let's listen to a little more of what she says here.
Worried about and trying to point out, because I do think that we are facing a crisis of democracy, a crisis of legitimacy.
Now, when she says crisis of democracy, understand who she's talking to maybe. I'm just throwing this out there. Because if she's talking to the elite, there is a crisis of democracy if they can't control the narrative anymore because of the internet, because of social media, because of YouTube, because of all these podcasters. It is a crisis of democracy, meaning people are waking up to our sham. So it's a crisis in our sham democracy. So that's how I read that. And let's play a little more of it, and then I'll let a couple of you comment if you have a few more comments here.
See, a crisis that really goes to the heart of what the future of our country and many others around the world will be. So I spend my time trying to figure out what we can do about it, and I am not ever going to give up because there's just too much at stake. But first and foremost, we have to make sure more people, besides people like you, me, Ann Applebaum, and others who share our concerns, see what we see around the world will be.
Okay, I'm going to ask you to do this exercise with me. Listen to this, but listen to it as if you're an oligarch. So pretend she's speaking to a room of Michael Bloomberg's, Bill Gates. Listen to it from that perspective. You tell me who she's talking to. Regular people or those people?
Of what the future of our you and others are worried about and trying to point out, because I do think that we are facing a crisis of democracy.
The we are the oligarch, remember that.
A crisis of legitimacy, a crisis that really goes to the heart of what the future of our country and many others around the world will be. So I spend my time trying to figure out what we can do about it, and I am not ever going to give up because there's just too much at stake.
She's talking to the oligarch. I'm not ever going to give up on trying to figure out on how to keep interfering with these elections so that we win. That's how I'm reading. That's how I'm reading this.
First and foremost, we have to make sure more people, besides people like you, me, Ann Applebaum, and others who share our concerns, see what we see.
That's the key thing I've been wanting to play, is that, but again, pretend as if she's talking to the oligarch. So people like you, oligarch, people like you and me, another oligarch, or Rachel Maddow, one of our propagandists, see what we see. That's key. See what we see. The average person might be thinking, you mean you know the secret truth? No, see the propaganda that they see. That's how I take it. Let me let this finish out.
Because I think that the role of disinformation, the way that propaganda has been really weaponized, and the increasing ability to manipulate people through algorithms and other forms of artificial intelligence will only make this harder to combat.
So that if, for those who don't know, she's talking about Russiagate when she's talking about manipulate the algorithms.
So I don't want to be pessimistic about it, because I think this is a worthy and necessary battle. I saw you talking to my two friends, Karen Dunn and Robbie Kaplan. You know, when they took on that case against the neo-Nazis and the white supremacists.
So here's another part I wanted to stop. So this is the other second important point I wanted to bring up. When you're talking propaganda, it's key to interject people like experts. These are experts say it to give the propaganda more legitimacy. Now listen to what she's saying here.
Against the neo-Nazis and the white supremacists coming.
She's interjecting, conflating neo-Nazism, neo-Nazis, what she's just saying. So what she's doing is she's adding negativity to what she's saying to associate misinformation, these people who are talking against Democrats, with Nazis. You get what I'm saying? This is a key tool that propagandists use. You interject an expert, or you interject and compare somebody so vile that no one could clearly say, oh, anything against the propaganda that you're speaking. So this is what I call a skilled propagandist. Because a skilled propagandist is very, very subtle in their propaganda. and it's all in the words they're selecting and the placement of those words. I know I keep saying it, but there's 20 seconds left. Let's let it finish.
Coming out of Charlottesville, you know, a lot of people were sort of scratching their heads. And I remember talking to both of them, particularly Karen, whom I've known, and she's worked for me, and I admire her greatly, about why they were doing it. And, you know, it was very simple. Somebody had to do it. We have got to end impunity. We have to hold people accountable for their actions, particularly when those actions threaten our way of life, our rule of law.
I'm going to replay that last few seconds. Now, think back to the 2016 election or primary when she says this last part.
Admire her greatly about why they were doing it. And, you know, it was very simple. Somebody had to do it. We have got to end impunity. We have to hold people accountable.
We have to hold people accountable
for their actions, particularly when those actions threaten our way of life.
Electing our president is our way of life. Getting a nomination is our way of life.
Our rule of law.
Rigging an election goes to rule of law. So I wanted to sort of give everybody a window on how I look at videos and what I do to break them down word by word, line by line, because I think it's very, very important when we're talking about propaganda, which is the thing that's keeping everybody in the place that we are in. Because Hillary Clinton is the face of election interference for the Democratic Party. Anytime they want to come out and say election interference, election something, it's Hillary Clinton's job to be rolled out. So, you know, my question to you is, do you think, well, several questions. Do you think, I'm going to throw this out for everybody, do you think this type of propaganda is going to work again for 2024? Meaning, whatever they come up with, what I think is going to be Russiagate and January 6th, I think those are going to be the things that they're going to push for as the fear factors unless something new comes up. So do you think this type of tactic is going to work again, minus a pandemic, this sort of propaganda tactic of election interference, of our algorithms that she's kind of speaking to? Do you think it's going to work, everybody? And if it doesn't work in 2024, if a Republican is elected, so their fear-mongering doesn't work, do you think they're finally going to learn and make changes?
I thought she sounded like she was talking to that 20% of America, the really propagandized liberals, and she was fear-mongering the Russians came and they got us, and we have to keep them from doing this again. I mean, that was my take on it. Do I think this will work? So in 2024, I predict that the Republican nominee, whether it is Mike Pompeo or Trump again, or Tom Cotton or Marco Rubio or whatever evil psychopath they put up, the propaganda will be, we have to stop the evil so-and-so who's racist. I think that they will throw that stuff in, the Russiagate stuff. I don't think that America is really biting it. I think that the Democrats are going to lose pretty big in 2024 because of their failure to act, their failure to get anything that they've promised done. I know that from the perspective of that 20% of really propagandized Democrats, they have gotten done because Joe Biden's made great speeches, right? And Joe Biden, you know, they got us the $600, which completed the 2,000 whatever, right? So what has actually happened is we haven't gotten shit. Joe Biden's worked his hardest to keep us from getting as little as possible, but because the vaccines became available just as the Trump administration was ending, you know, the way that COVID is gone is, you know, they're going to frame it as Joe Biden has handled COVID this so much better than Trump, and that's what a lot of people really look at as the main thing, is that we're handling COVID better now than we were before there was even a vaccine. It's a shitty lens to look through. It's not really accurate in any way, and the Democrats are really going to try to use that. But the fact that they still haven't accomplished anything, the fact that like Georgia, I don't think any Democrats are going to vote for in Georgia because of the whole truth that, it's easy
Right.
for us in California to say, yeah, he promised $2,000 checks would go out the door, and, we could debate it and pretend like there's really a valid response. But the fact is if you're in Georgia, they said, vote for us for this reason, and they did not deliver it.
Right.
So,
And
I think it'll be part of their thing. I think that they'll find new things to gaslight us with. But Democrats are going down in 2024.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah, I don't think they can do anything about it. I don't think they will do anything. They could do a lot of things. They could, they could wipe student debt out tomorrow. They can do that. They could pass Medicare for all. They can pass a national health care, whatever you like, whether Medicare for all or national health care. They could do a lot of things. They can raise the national minimum wage to $12. I would prefer $28 or more, but raising it to $12 would help some people in some parts of our country. They could do little things like that they simply refuse to do. Do you think the Democrats will pivot, will do something different moving forward? Because it will be like they lost once to Trump with this fear factor, didn't work, and now they lost again to said Republican with a fear factoring not working. Do you think they're going to give that up?
Yeah, well, first off, the only thing that she loses sleep about is the fact that she lost to Donald Trump at night, and that's why that's one of the reasons she's doing what she's doing, because she still knows she's never going to be president and nobody likes her, and she has to do stupid shit like this to try to get people to pay attention to her still. And another thing I think that we have to stop doing is that the liberals, like they call themselves the left when they're actually the mild right, and their job is to destroy anything left of themselves and to pretty much just let the far right roll over them in the Republican Party. And I feel that if one thing that they're just not going to do anything that helps their benefit, because what they're trying to do is just fundraise. They don't care about what the actual voters care about. They're just trying to fundraise. I think the DNC is like one of the best fundraiser in the United States. They just they know how to fundraise, and I think that's what it all comes down to. They don't really care. This is all lip service. I think that also that Hillary Clinton, as far as her and what they're going to try to push next time, I think that it'll be between them trying to fearmonger over Ethiopia and possibly China and Russia. I think they're
when you say Ethiopia, for those that don't know what's happening, why do you say it will be Ethiopia?
Well, I think in Tree, what's going on in Trey with the war going on a little bit down there in the far right movement, we're trying to prop up in Ethiopia and trying to take down their government and whatnot. And also at the same time, their ambassador they just signed into the Belt and Road Initiative as well. And I think that's another reason why we're trying to get into Ethiopia as well. And not to mention that last year on Juneteenth, we got Juneteenth, but we also on the same day the Supreme Court ruled that slavery was legal in Africa, and a lot of our Nestle and a lot of our chocolate comes from Ethiopia as well. So I think we're going to be in a battle for a lot of these resources are starting to come up for question, because we're starting to lose a lot of our resources and they're starting to shift elsewhere. And I think that's another reason.
No, that's good. That's good. Let's go to Austin. This fear mongering that the Democratic Party is going to do, and you saw in the clip, Hillary Clinton is already starting that now.
So will that work? I mean, they're obviously going to use that as part of their overall strategy, and something to consider is that like fear-mongering on China is a unifying thing between various stripes of liberals, conservatives, whatever the fuck you want to call them, dumb motherfuckers. So with that, I think that what they're going to try to do is keep riding some more out on this painful global pandemic, and towards the near closer to the election, if things haven't totally gone fuck and martial law ain't called into effect, they might try to pass some things to try to bump the presidential nomination approval rating and whatnot. I think they're trying to hold what they got as much and drag their feet as much as possible. I mean, that's clearly how things go if you pay attention at all. Whatever happens up there in D.C. is fucking slow. So, and will it work? Will they change? If we look at effectively their same parties, Democrats and Republicans, yeah, and you look at the splintering of what's going on with the Republicans, now let's say it dissolves more, then you're left with just the Democrats, right? But they both operate basically the same way. So as more independent voters grow, which it has, and more more socialist voters become more in tune, you could likely see that party falling apart too very shortly thereafter, if they don't go full fucking neoliberal dictatorship for some geo-fascism fucking reason or whatnot. So, and real quick, fucking Clinton, her ass, she lost because she is fucking lazy, you know? Mm-hmm. She was fucking lazy. Because I tell you what, she could have won. She fucked it up. So she can fucking carry that shit around, dumb motherfucker. Mm-hmm. So, but something in there though is she's talking about, she talked about bots. She talked about white supremacy. Well, here's the thing, right? Whatever disinformation white supremacists bring online, the corporations are the ones that promote this. They, in this fucking weird ass place we live with the internet and manipulation. By the way, the manipulation is always going on. Coal and oil barons bought newspapers and shit and fucking, made their own news. These corporations, they run these algorithms and shit. So really it's them promoting their own white supremacy capitalist shit. But, they fucked up and turned it up to 11 or 12, and then Trump fucking Black Swan. So yeah, they did this, they turned it up, and we're in a pressure pot right now. Whole world. So.
Absolutely. Thank you, Austin. Let's go to, I saw your hand up, Comrade K, so we'll go to you.
The one thing that scares me about the American people, with the exception of you comrades, because you guys get it, Americans have the poorest perception and understanding of politics in the world. It's the worst. You guys all know what the political spectrum looks like. It's the square, and there's the center, and there's the authoritarian left, authoritarian right, and then there's the libertarian left and the libertarian right. It's so much more complicated than that. You have fascism, you have Christian theocracy, you have Islamic theocracy, you have Zionism, you have Kissingerism. Yes, that's a real thing. You have libertarian socialism, libertarian communism, council communism. You have Marxism, Marxism-Leninism, and Trotskyism, and Stalinism, and you have anarcho-capitalism, and you have all these those other things. Politics and political theory is so unbelievably, truly diverse in nature, but the closer you get to that tiny little center in the center square, that's neoliberalism. It doesn't matter which part you lean towards most. If you're in that square, you're neoliberal. And what the establishment does is it attempts its damnedest to ensure that the population's understanding of politics stays within that square. So everyone can have this stupid fucking perception that the Democrats are far left and the Republicans are far right, even though that's not the case at all. And America has just been pushed further and further and further and further and further to the right. The American public is so unbelievably uneducated about politics, it fucking hurts. It fucking hurts. That is why the Democrats have been able to continue to pull people to their side. Because no matter how bad they are, there's still a perception in America that they are the left alternative to the Republicans. But it's just not fucking true. The Democrats will sabotage the socialists by any means necessary to appease the establishment, and the establishment thinks it can just continue to keep up this game of, you know, capitalism and the wealth gap increasing and all that shit. They think it can go by without any consequences. But fascism takes hold when material conditions get worse. It takes hold because white supremacists and fascists prey on the impoverished. They prey on the uneducated. They prey on the downtrodden. It's how Hitler was able to come to power. And I'm sorry to paint a bleak picture for your guys' fucking country, but basically you guys are going to end up exactly like Iran, in the sense that Iran had its socialist leftist presence completely obliterated by the CIA. So that way, when there was horrible poverty within the country because of the Shah, when there was corruption, when there was all these horrible things going on with the government, the only people who were willing to oppose them were the conservatives, were the far religious right. And they took power, and they have stayed in power ever since. That is exactly what is happening in America, because the far right is far stronger than the far left is. Yes, they're a little less organized, because I have no idea how January 6th wasn't just the complete death of whatever neoliberal establishment y'all guys have left in your country. But
because Trump ran it, that dumb motherfucker.
Trump ran it. He may have been a fascist, but he was a dumb one. But you guys are fucking lucky that he was dumb. The next Republican candidate won't be so fucking stupid. The Republican candidates in 2022 during the midterms won't be so fucking stupid. At least they won't appear to be so fucking stupid. This is a ticking time bomb. This is fucking serious. This is the scariest thing I have ever watched ever. And people like Hillary Clinton, and not to shit on any of us, because, you know, you guys are great, but I have a feeling I know why Hillary Clinton doesn't shut the fuck up. I think I know why. And it's not because she's trying desperate to remain relevant. It's much more sinister than that. The reason she keeps getting on the news and won't shut the hell up is not because she's desperately trying to seek validation and relevance and whatnot. There's a small part of her that is. But she knows that if she gets on the air and is a hypocrite and says something blatantly obvious, or says something that everyone knows that she's a fucking liar and shit like that, it gives her something. It gives the Democratic establishment attention. And we fall into that trap too. Look at us. We're talking about her. Yes, we're dissecting her bullshit, and we do have a responsibility to do that. But every time she does that, she rips attention away from the people on the ground who are trying desperately to do all the work. Americans pay way too much attention to what their mainstream politicians say. And I don't want to tout Canada by any means, because over here we have a lot of work to do. But you guys, if I am to sum you guys up in a meme, you guys are the Internet Explorer of political theory. You guys are, like, your nation, the majority of your nation is so far behind in terms of being educated about political theory. You guys are nowhere near. It's
the Internet Explorer. The people you're talking about, when you say that, the people you're talking about will probably say, "What's wrong with Internet Explorer?"
Exactly. Oh. Exactly. You don't understand. There's people who still use that here.
What's wrong with Internet Explorer? Is there something wrong there's something wrong with my Internet Explorer at home? That's what their response would be.
You guys, that would happen.
Oh my god. I'm sorry to say that, but
that's very scary. Let's bring in Ludin, though. Ludin is the only one that hasn't chimed in on this particular last round here.
I think that Comrade K and everybody else had a point when he said that the Democrats are probably not going to learn from their mistake. And I venture to say that even they might try to do the same thing again and fuck it up worse. So they'll probably like try to make another Pied Piper candidate, and that person's going to be worse Trump, more eloquent and smart Trump, and then we're just I don't know what happens from there.
Yeah, like a Tom Cotton. They might say, oh, yeah, he says such crazy things. Let's put him up because people will obviously not vote for him, and then Tom Cotton get elected. So I get your point. Thank you, Ludin and everybody.